We'll have Mark Fulkerson with the Swift Southwest Water Management District come up and give us a presentation on the current rainfall and the flooding in our area. So we thought this would be very instrumental and informational to our residents here in the county on what we have going on. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Dr. Mark Fulkerson. I'm a Chief Professional Engineer with the Southwest Florida Water Management District, and I'm going to give a brief presentation to you here in a moment when this comes up. You know, I work for SwiftMud, but I'm also a Citrus County native. I was born and raised here and grew up here, and this area is the area I'm real passionate about as far as the water resources and our natural resources and things like that. So it's kind of neat for me to go away to college and come back and still work in an area that I grew up. And so I was asked by some of the county staff to come in today and just share some information on rainfall, because it's been a unique year in Citrus County. And so, go ahead, Doug. We get rainfall all throughout the year in Citrus County and in Florida, but the majority of our rain comes in a 4-month period. So June, July, August, and September, this is what we call our wet season. I think most of us are aware of that. We average anywhere from 6 to 9 inches of rain during these months. And after September, and thankfully we're getting towards the end of September this year, October through May, we only average about 2 to 3 inches of rain a month. So that's our dry season. It's the remainder of the year, but we get most of our rain in the summer months. It's because of these trends in rainfall that we also see our rivers, our lakes, our aquifer, everything go up in the summer, go back down in the winter and spring. So on average, Citrus County gets about 31 inches of rain during the wet season. That's just average. Some years we might get 25, other years we might get 35 inches of rain, somewhere in there. This year has been an extremely rare year for rainfall in Citrus County, because we have averaged already since June 1st 46 inches of rain in the county. And you can see those rain gauges on the map that are gauges that we monitor. They're real-time gauges. We have information every hour or every day with rainfall totals, and you know, mid-40s up to 53 inches up north of Crystal River already since June 1st. That's just phenomenal amounts of rain. And when we get all this rain, you know, what it does is it fills up our groundwater aquifer levels, number one. And one little thing I want to share with you is the aquifer levels, our groundwater levels in Citrus County right now are in the 97th percentile for September, not for the whole year, but just for this time of year. So you go back decades and decades, we've been monitoring groundwater levels, and it's only been higher 3% of the time on history in September. So groundwater is very, very high. When groundwater's up, our springs are flowing, and all of our springs on the West Coast are flowing above normal right now for this time of year. You know, the Withlacoochee River that wraps around our county is flowing strong. All of our lakes and wetlands, everything's full. You drive around the county, you see water all over the place right now. And I just want to compare Citrus County to some other counties, and these are the 16 counties in our water management district. But the blue are the wetter areas, and the red are the least amounts of rain. But I mean, just look at that map. Where has it rained this year? It's rained in Citrus County, and you know, the highest amount of rainfall we've recorded this summer since June 1st is up there north of Crystal River, about 57.3 inches. Down in DeSoto County, there's a little spot, only had 15 inches of rain this summer. Amazing the disparity that we can get sometimes with rainfall. But I want to show this just to kind of compare some things, because you know, when it comes to flooding issues in wherever you are, you know, obviously it's all driven by rainfall, but we can experience flooding in Citrus County a few different ways. The Withlacoochee River is our eastern and northern boundary, so when that is flooding, properties on the Withlacoochee can be impacted by rain. The Withlacoochee's been up pretty high this summer, but not a record or anything. And the reason being is because our Withlacoochee River starts down in some of those red areas, Polk County, eastern Pasco County, Lake, southern Sumter. So that's the beginnings of it. Thankfully, we haven't had the kind of rain that we've had up here down there too, or we'd have had severe flooding along the Withlacoochee this year. You know, we can get storm surge from the Gulf as well. That's another source of flooding in our county. You know, we're bounded by water on 3 sides, so we haven't thankfully had any kind of direct hit with hurricanes or anything like that, and we're going to hope that stays that way. But another area that is the inland area. So you have the boundaries of the county that are water, right? Except for the southern boundary. And then you have all the inland areas. And the inland areas are mostly high and dry, mostly with very good drained soils, but there still are a lot of low-lying areas in Citrus County with poorly drained soils. And it's a lot of those areas that we've been seeing this summer with a tremendous amount of water filling those up. And so, you know, when you get 4 or 5 feet of rain in 3 months, it can't evaporate very fast. That's a lot of water standing on the surface. And I just want to share a couple pictures with you. You know, this has not been isolated to one area in the county. There's a couple photos from areas on the west side of the county, the east side of the county. These are all what I would call closed basins or isolated low areas. So if you're in one of these spots where the water is, you look around you and there's high ground on all sides. So really just nowhere for the water to naturally drain. It's got to evaporate or it's got to soak in to the ground. But remember, our groundwater levels are very, very high. I spoke with a gentleman this morning that lives out in the Crystal River, Denellen area of the county that was telling me that he's got a well that the water was actually shooting up out of his well like an artesian spring today, you know, this past week. And that's a direct result of rainfall on higher ground soaking into the aquifer and coming up in his low area. Our aquifer underground is like our rivers. It's flowing from high to low elevation as well. So it's at an elevation of 40 over here where we are right now, but it's got to get, by the time it gets to the coast, it's got to get down to an elevation of 0. So it drops 40 feet the aquifer does as it moves across our county underground. And it goes up and down every year. But a lot of these low-lying areas, unfortunately, are isolated. Water's been sitting in them. We're seeing water in areas this year where we've seen it in the past, but way more severe and in a lot more areas than we've ever seen in the past. But I will tell you that most of the areas in the county that are flooding this summer have flooded before. Probably not with the current landowner maybe that lives there, or maybe they've experienced it, but these are areas that have flooded. That's kind of an important thing to notice is a lot of these are flood-prone areas. And as such, sometimes there's solutions and sometimes there aren't solutions to the flooding. You know, when we get alerted to times like this, and Citrus County is one where our staff have been out a lot, meeting with residents this summer. We've been coordinating with county staff a lot. We've been trying to identify, you know, what's the cause of it? Is there a potential solution? A lot of times there isn't. But we do our best to try to document the flooding and something else we do. Can you go ahead too? One more. Something else we do, I just want to mention is we've been doing this since about 2004, so over 15 years here working with Citrus County is we do very highly detailed flood studies. So we do these watershed studies, as we call them, through our watershed management program. The county will usually come and say, hey, we want to study this area, we want to develop better flood risk identification in those areas, and then look for potential solutions. And so we'll fund it 50%, and we'll work with you guys. And we've done most of them in Citrus County already, the blue shapes, those watersheds. We have 2 ongoing right now, one up in Citrus Springs, one down in Chassahowitzka that we're working on. And we're about to start one that we've been planning for a little while in Red Level. And Red Level, north of Crystal River, is an area that a lot of us have been getting phone calls about with flooding impacts this summer. So I just wanted you to be aware that that's something else we do. Because better identifying the flood risk really helps us all make better decisions.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Mark, first of all, thanks for being here and on a bit of short notice, but thank you. There is a lot of concern up there. Crystal Manor, Red Level, all that area up there is my district, so I've been hearing from those folks. And I've heard that there's a study that's supposed to be coming on Red Level. Can you give us any idea of when that's going to start and how long something like that takes?
Sure, Commissioner Kennard. So that's we're starting that this fiscal year, our fiscal year, October 1st, that we're starting. We've been planning it for a while, even before we knew all this rain was going to come. But these are multi-year studies, so they take a few years. And after those 2 or 3 years, we end up with a product that basically has taken into account the topography of the land, the soils, the impervious area like the roadways, rainfall, all the culverts, all the pipes. So we model that in very high detail. It takes a while to get that detail so that we can then throw rain on it and see what areas would fill up and how much. And then the next step on that And we are doing that next step on some of these watersheds already in Citrus County is, okay, let's run some analyses to say, okay, what if we could build another retention pond here? Or what if we could, do something here to help alleviate this neighborhood that's impacted? But it's not something that happens overnight.
Sure. Now, when you say multi-year studies, we're 3 to 5 years or 8 years,
Probably
10
2 to
years?
3 to have a very detailed model that will tell you all the answers.
Okay,
And then using that model or that tool, we can look at potential solutions in some areas. But I will tell you from my experience, and I've been with SwiftMud for about 15 years, and we've done this in all our 16 counties, sometimes there are cost-effective means and solutions, and
Sure.
sometimes there aren't.
yeah,
in certain
understood.
areas. I just had one more slide I wanted to show too, and then I'm
Yeah.
finished with you
All right,
guys.
thank you.
You go back one day. Yeah. So just to kind of pull it all together, I just wanted to compare this summer to every summer on history that we've ever recorded rainfall in Citrus County. And actually, we've recorded rainfall back to 1915, but those were not super wet years. So these blue lines are just the years that we had above average summer rains. Okay, these are the years we had above average summer rains. And 2021 were the third highest rainfall in a summer period, June to September, ever, really, that we've recorded. So 1945, 1960, SwiftMud was formed in 1961 because of all the flooding in 1960, so that was an extreme event. But we still have 2 weeks left of our rainy season, and this is a record I don't want us to break.
Right.
I live here. I have friends that are impacted by the high water. But the reality is, in these next 2.5 weeks, if we get 2.5 more inches of rain countywide, we're going to have the all-time highest rainfall in any summer in Citrus County, and that just kind of puts it into perspective of why we're dealing with what we're dealing with this
Commissioner
summer.
Davis.
Yes, I actually did a little quick math, and I think we're on track, if this continues, by the end of the month to be almost, not quite double our average, about 75% additional. So that's pretty major. That's just a statement. But
Yeah, true.
and then you were talking about closed basins. So you have told me that Arrowhead, parts of Arrowhead fits that description as a closed basin, correct?
Right. Doug, if you go to slide 14, go ahead 5. I can show you what I'm talking about, Commissioner Davis. Keep going. There's a blank one in there.
So my next question would be, what can we do about it, much like what Commissioner
Right.
Kennard was talking about
Keep
in his
going.
district?
Keep going. Right there. Yep. Yeah, so I anticipated maybe a question on this, so I've got this is a topographic map, so the white areas, these are the snow-capped mountains in Citrus County. I'm joking, but that's just the highest elevation. The red is pretty high. Yellow, if I'm living somewhere, you might want to put your house in the yellow or red, but a lot of those yellow areas in Arrowhead are low-lying areas, and you can kind of it's kind of hard to depict, but you can see some of those little bowl-shaped green spots intermixed in Arrowhead, and so that's just what I'm talking about as far as when rain hits these areas, it settles in those low spots.
And there's
really-
homes in those green areas, is what you're saying?
There are many homes, yeah.
Yeah.
And so Arrowhead kind of gets a double whammy. They get, when the Withlacoochee River is flooding, the properties along the Withlacoochee can rise and come in. And the developer back in the day realized how low it was, and they tried to dig ditches and get it out to the river. But when the river's up, it's not going to drain out to the river. And then rain directly on Arrowhead itself also just kind of fills up those low areas. So it's a very flood-prone area that really there's not a way to just take that whole area and lift it all up 10 feet and pull it out of the floodplain. It's going to be floodplain because of what it is.
And I understand that this is an outlier year, and we're used to this in Florida between hurricanes and everything else. There's always going to be outlier years where we're subject to Mother Nature. But what can we do, much like what Commissioner Kennard was talking about in his district, what can we do to alleviate flooding in that area? Because, it's been forecast with resiliency efforts that rainfalls are going to be higher and flooding is going to be higher going forward in the decades to come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the root issue when it comes to a home that's flooded is a home that was built in an area it shouldn't have been built. And sometimes to no fault of the person that built the home or even the county that permitted it to be built, but it just was based on poor flood information. And so one of the biggest things we did, that's why I shared that slide, is we're trying to identify these flood risk areas. So moving forward, as Citrus County develops, we develop less in areas that are truly flood prone.
Right.
Now, for those that are already there, it's a challenge. And Arrowhead, not only are there low-lying areas that have, flooding and water standing, and to be honest, Commissioner Davis, not really anywhere you can divert and take that water. It's naturally what's supposed to fill up with water. But they also have, very low roadways, and a lot of those roadways are private roads, and so there's limitations for the county or anyone else to really go in there and say, hey, we're gonna raise all these roads up, we're gonna put a bunch of culverts under them. So I don't have, a great answer on how you can prevent the flooding, because I'm not sure that you can in those areas. But I think education for the residents to understand why things are doing it, and that they're going to happen again if we get enough rain, that can help people prepare and to make smart decisions on their property. And then also potentially, getting the neighbors to come together and to try to get a county easement on some of those roads so the county can maintain them. But that's tough because that costs money.
And what about additional DRAs?
Usually when like a CVS goes in or a Walmart, you're going to build a DRA, right? And that's going to capture the additional rain that falls on that impervious area. The problem is an area like Arrowhead and so many of our areas in the county that are low-lying and flood-prone is they are the DRA. That is, and I'm not trying to be funny, but that is just naturally where the water drains. And for the volume of water that you have in some of those areas right now, I mean, I don't think there's enough land to dig down high ground and to store all that and to try to take it from a lower area and get it up into a higher area.
Your
that's not
answer
already
doesn't
flooding.
surprise me. This is a public meeting, and I want people to
Yeah.
hear what you have to say. So I'm just giving you some leading questions.
Okay.
Okay,
So-
Commissioners, any other questions for Mr. Fulkerson? Mark, we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the job that you do.
Hey,
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make an announcement. I emailed everyone. We're going to be opening up 2 sandbag sites to try to help. Sandbags are pretty hard to deal with the amount of water we've had, but if it helps one person, that would be fine. It's going to be at Citronella Park and West Dunklin Street. There will be self-serve sites, and they should be open about 2 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver.
And the last thing I'll say, Chairman, is the good news is we're right at the end of our rainy season, thankfully, and hurricane season continues on a little bit, but as far as just all this rain we've been having, we don't need a hurricane to flood. We've seen that this summer. Sometimes it shuts off in mid-September, other times October 1st, but when this rain shuts off, it's going to shut off, and we're just about there, and we're just crossing our
I
fingers.
know, right? Praying every day.
So,